This show is proudly supported by Habitats at Home, Australia's leading PVC reptile enclosure specialist. Check them out on Instagram and Facebook at Habitats at Home, and be sure to visit habitatsathome.com.au if you're in the market for a new PVC reptile enclosure or other reptile accessories. Massive thanks to Tyson over at Habitats at Home. We'd like to thank our podcast sponsor, Varanibae, reimagining reptile keeping through innovation. They combine quality, design, and function to create high-end 3D printed reptile products. And if you've got a unique setup or problem, they'll craft a custom solution made just for you. Check them out on Instagram at Varanibae. This show is proudly supported by Dan from Red Earth Reptiles. If you want to drool over some of the best looking green tree pythons in the country, check out Dan on Instagram at red_earth_reptiles. G'day and welcome to Under the Heat Lamp with Joe Mack. Today's episode number 29, and I've got with me Tim or Varanibae. How's it going, Tim?
Good, how are you?
Good, thanks, mate. We've had a bit of a bloody chaotic run to get to here now, but we're here, and I'm really happy to have you on board with the show today and with the show as a whole. It's awesome to have you as a sponsor. I'm a big fan of your work, and it's good to have a chat with you now.
It's a pleasure.
Sweet, man. Well, do you want to give us a bit of a rundown on your history with reptiles?
I think I've watched enough episodes to know that everyone seems to have the same sort of backstory. Started as a young kid, obsessed with reptiles, animals, everything. I grew up in Hong Kong, so we can't keep, too much size-wise. Everyone lives in small apartments, but I started with little fish tanks, have little red ear slider turtles in them, newts and salamanders, fish as well. I was pretty into fish at that point. And when I moved, my family, we all migrated down to Australia. And that's when it kind of took off. Started with a bearded dragon, then a blue-tongued skink, and then a little bit of out of control from there. So very similar to most people, it's probably a bit of nature and nurture, born with the interest in wildlife and animals, but then that was definitely nurtured through my parents. They gave me a lot of opportunities. My dad would take me out like catching fish and all those kind of things, looking for reptiles. So yeah, that's how I grew from there.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I guess when you're placed in Australia, you're kind of immediately surrounded by nature, so you start to see it, and then
Yeah,
it can quickly snowball. So did your interest sort of start with the captive stuff? Is that where things started to progress?
definitely. Yeah, I think keeping was how I started getting into the hobby. And then I think that kind of took a bit of a tangent where the keeping, I eventually got more into the building and construction side of things, like building enclosures, making things for reptiles to use and utilize. And that's been a huge focus as much as the reptile keeping. I think the actual creating things is also a big hobby of mine.
Definitely a big hobby of yours. I've got a few little notes here about how well your YouTube channel is great, and I was
Thank you.
fascinated by the video called The Journey to 100 Enclosures.
Yeah.
Have you built 100 enclosures?
Yeah, so I've counted at the point of making that video, it was 100. Now it's probably 110, 115, something like that. It's definitely
That's
slowed back quite
ridiculous.
a lot. But yes,
Yeah, that's massive. That's huge.
yeah,
And
quite a few.
how have the enclosures evolved over time? Like, what did the first enclosure look like, and then what's the most recent enclosure look like?
Yeah, so that video is up there if anyone's interested. But it did go through from the start. I really had zero skills, no construction background. I don't even have like parents, uncles, cousins who know how to build. I was really going into it blind. Don't know my tools at all. I use an angle grinder with a stone. Like in hindsight, looking back at the footage, for some reason I decided I want to film the progress.
Yeah.
It was actually stone grinding disc. That's what I used to cut the melamine. It created a lot of smoke and pretty much grind it through the melamine, put it together,
Awesome.
and that was my first enclosure. And then from there, got into converting furniture because I realized that I don't have the right tools. It's quite a big job to cut down melamine with an angle grinder. So I went to getting those display cabinets. You get them from Gumtree, Facebook Marketplace, or even just the curbside. Those glass door display cabinets and converting them into reptile enclosures. And for some reason, people bought them. I guess it's a unique product. And that's how I made enough money as a kid. I was still in school back then to buy myself some tools. And then from there, kind of the skills developed, the toolbox developed as well, and the experience starts to grow. And from there, started experimenting with different materials, different designs, and refining this design. So that's kind of the journey. Yeah. I'm
Yeah,
still on that journey basically. It's never
and
ending.
you'll always be on that journey. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And so in terms of refinement, what do the recent enclosures have that
Mm.
the some of the prior ones didn't have?
So I'd say the material was definitely something that shifted. First thing I went to was melamine because that's what everyone used to do. That's before PVC was popular. Melamine was the kind of the stock standard for enclosures in Australia. Everyone uses them. Experimented with plywood, just your regular like construction ply because they're cheap, but it's just so much effort to have to paint them with like a sealant. And if that sealant comes off, water seeps in, it stains easily. That's when I came across form ply, which is people who are not familiar. A lot of people use them for reptile enclosures, but they are originally for concrete formwork. So definitely strong enough, waterproof, and the surface, I quite like the finish. The black color is nice, it's easy to clean. It checked a lot of the boxes. So that's sort of the material that I stuck with from there. But PVC is definitely a very exciting next kind of material that I like to experiment with. There's definitely some limitations, some pros and cons between form ply versus PVC, but yeah, it's definitely a very exciting space as
Yeah.
PVC enclosures become more and more popular.
Could you give us some examples of pros and cons for those? I know a big con of four ply is that it's heavy as shit. It's
It's
very
heavy,
heavy.
yeah.
Yeah.
So weight is definitely a downside to the form ply. The edges, you still gotta either edge band it yourself or you paint it, or if you leave it, then you get a bit of an exposed edge. So there's a little bit of processing required for the form ply. PVC, I would say that the main downside I have with it, like, although you can get around it, is just the heat side of things. They're not nearly as heat resistant as the form ply. They're more prone to like you have a monitor enclosure, you want those big 100 watts, 150-watt lamps. I do worry about them letting out fumes or if they sag a little bit. But yeah, if they're metal brackets, screen tops, those are ways that you can get around it, I'd say.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess what are the sort of thermal properties like? Does PVC hold heat just as well as foam ply?
I would say it should be comparable. I don't know
Yeah.
about the actual technical data of each, and I think that with even within PVC, there's different types of PVC. But
Oh, of course,
most of
yeah.
the PVC boards that you get have a bit of a cellular foamy structure in between. So it's not just a solid block of plastic. There's a bit of expansion required, so there's air spaces in between, which is great for insulation.
Great for
Form
insulation.
plywood, having some layers of wood also is good for insulation, but I haven't compared them head to head, so I'm not
Yeah,
too
yeah.
sure.
Which do you prefer to work with?
I'm familiar with form ply because I've done it. I've got a little bit of woodworking background as well, which came from reptile enclosure building. Once I got the
Yeah.
tools, I started doing woodworking, and from there, that really honed in my skills in doing better reptile enclosures. So I'm familiar with woodworking. I'm familiar with how wood tears and how it chips out. So I would say I'm more comfortable working with form ply. PVC is still quite new. I've only
Yeah, okay.
recently done a project with them.
So did you do woodworking separate to reptile enclosure building?
Yeah, yeah. So
Oh,
when I
cool.
got those tools from selling reptile enclosures, I got tools to build reptile enclosures. But now that I've got all these tools here, I started getting into, furniture making and all that as well. Little side, yeah, hobby that I kind of picked up along the way.
Yeah, that's awesome. So is your house just full of your own furniture or is is it not like that?
There is a bit of that, yeah, but sometimes it is easier to just pick up an IKEA flat pack than to build
Oh,
your own from scratch. So there's a mix. There's a mix of them.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Sometimes IKEA doesn't have exactly what you want or need, so
Mm.
it's
Yeah.
just convenient to make it for yourself. I've seen it in some of your YouTube videos. You've really upgraded the tools a lot. You've got some pretty impressive tooling. I in some of the recent I built a rack over here where these green pythons are, and I used a table saw, which you
Yep.
use as well. Just makes
Yep.
life about a trillion times easier. if you're a bit gumby on the tools like I am, the table saw's a godsend.
Definitely.
And the circular saw with the vacuum attachment. I mean, these are all very basic tools. They're just they just excite me. Little things to make life a bit easier
Yeah,
is
we
awesome.
definitely go down that rabbit hole of getting uh, obsessive over tools and the next new tool. And there's a bit of a fan club. Which brand are you stuck with? All those kind of things. It's a huge topic, the
Yeah,
tool
yeah.
side.
Oh, it's massive. It is
Yeah.
divisive with among
Mm.
people who use them for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just a regular old guy. I use my tools every so often, so I just got the old 7 piece Ryobi kit or whatever it was
Yeah.
5 or 6 years ago, and not one of those tools has failed me. Although I think the little radio that it came with is pretty shit, so I don't use the radio much. But for someone like
Yeah.
me, the Ryobi stuff is fine. Um,
It is definitely more than capable. As with any
yeah,
tools, really, the more expensive you get, yes, it makes your life easier. It is better quality, but it's how long is a piece of string, Like it just keeps going from there. There's always better
yeah.
tools.
Always better tools. You just got to weigh up what makes sense for you. But
Yeah,
um,
definitely.
I guess when it comes to building new enclosures and things, what comes first? Is it your interest in building something better for the reptiles, or do you just want to try to build a better enclosure than the last one?
I would say probably the latter. Um,
Yeah,
Not that the reptile needs an upgrade. Sometimes I just, use the enclosure as it is for a little while, notice that, this could be better, and I just get the itch of wanting to build something new. So I'm not doing it as much now because I actually moved to a smaller place. I don't have the full workshop anymore. But at one stage, probably about 2 to 3 years ago, it was a constant build an enclosure, sell it as secondhand, which that even though it's a secondhand price, it's enough to cover the original cost. So basically, I keep getting upgrades and upgrades without any extra money, other than putting in time and effort. But cost side of things, didn't have to put in anything, and I was able to, over the course of 3, 4 years, kept getting better and better enclosures without forking out much money at all.
yeah. That's an incredible way to do things. It's like trade the guy that traded a paperclip for a house or whatever it is. It's like
Yeah, yeah,
constantly trading up.
yeah, pretty much like that. Started with the angle grinder, and now I have like a full workshop at one.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. That's awesome, and obviously giving your animals a better life in better enclosures is awesome too.
Mm.
Speaking of animals, what are you keeping? Did you have to downsize? You had to downsize quite a bit, I imagine, as well, to
Yeah,
move into a
yeah.
smaller space.
Yeah, used to be in a bigger space where I had a nice display wall. Each enclosure is 4 by 4 by 2 with all my adult display stock. But now that I've moved to, everything's just consolidated down to one room. And as this reptile hobby of mine kind of evolved over the years, where now I'm actually a lot more focused on 3D printing, the reptile keeping and breeding is actually taking a little bit of a back step. So I still have three species of four species of monitors. We've got the Scalaris, the ridgetail monitors, the Orientalis, the freckle tree monitors, which are one of my all-time favorites because they're the first ones I've bred. And finally, recently picked up some Brevicorda, the short-tail pygmy monitors.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, and Boyds and green pythons as well.
Yeah, so the green pythons, I guess, I watch a lot of your episodes, a lot of people on the show very into them. To me, like they're amazing snakes, but I haven't really quite gotten into the breeding space just yet. So maybe that's the future project to focus on. So yeah, got the green tree pythons. They're the only snake I keep. I just love them. If I'm going to keep one snake, of course, it's the green tree python.
Makes
Uh,
sense.
and got a colony of voids, which I bred quite regularly. That's quite a staple as well. Again, if you're going to keep one dragon, to me, I've picked the Void's Forest Dragons. So that's the
Yeah.
collection where it's at now.
And did you produce much in the season just gone, or have you really started to wind things down a bit?
So I've wound things down with the monitors. So I actually took a break from breeding monitors. I've deliberately sold off all my breeding stock. I've kept most of the juveniles though, which allows me to um, do a little bit of selection and line breeding. So I've kept most of them, grew them up. I'm going to start picking up some holdbacks. This allows me to, I guess, skip the breeding for 2 years, take a break from it, but also better the breeding colony. So the only thing I'm breeding this season is the Boyd's Forest Dragon, which again I had a pretty good um, yield this year. I've got three breeding females, and they're all laid multiple clutches, so quite a few eggs in the incubator.
Oh, amazing. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's great. And so in terms of holding back some of the monitor lizards,
Mhm.
for I guess each of those species, what has helped you to determine which animals you'll hold back? Like I imagine with the Scalaris, they're the Paloensis, so you've picked probably the animals with more red, I'd imagine.
Definitely, yeah. So, especially I guess with the Akis, which I haven't really focused on as a project. Akis are a lot of people would agree that they actually take a while to develop their full colors. They're all, even if they've got really nice parents, when they come out, they really just don't show much of their colors. And if you sold them too quickly, you might actually be letting go of some very nice individuals, which would later have turned out to be very nice. So, I think overall there are benefits. Same with the boys actually to let them develop a little bit, let their characteristic, their head shape, their spines, and their colors to show before deciding. But yeah, mostly focused on selecting colors rather than, I guess, people do temperament. I would say a lot of them, yes, there is a bit of a genetic component to temperament. Some of them are definitely on the skittish side, but with the same kind of care and socialization, getting them used to the routine, I'm sure a lot of them still turn out. If they're going to be good, they're going to be good. If they're not, it just happens.
Yeah, I think yeah, there's a lot of that. It does just happen. It's kind of like the nature and nurture thing, but sometimes the nature of these animals is just that they're feral or they're skittish or that
It's
they're
good.
just not really interested in being around people, which seems to happen more often than not in my case, which is
Yeah, you would get the
uh,
skittish ones.
I always get the skittish ones, and I have a penchant for larger lapids, so it doesn't always
Yeah.
work in my favor, unfortunately. But
Yeah.
that's all right. Have you got a favorite species of mon? Oh no, never mind. You did just say that. You
I
said
need to touch on that. Yeah,
the Oris. The Oris. Yeah, that's fair
correct.
enough.
Mainly because
Okay.
that's the first monitor that I've bred.
Yeah.
Just that whole experience of getting the two, it was a pretty small clutch, three eggs, obsessed over those three eggs over the entire incubation period, which is not it's not short,
No.
compared to the snakes and the dragons. And finally, seeing little heads pop out, starting to hand feed them, the whole process was just so rewarding. So they always have a
Oh
special
yeah.
place in my heart.
Totally. And how long ago was that you bred them for the first time?
That was probably 4, 5 years ago now.
Yeah. Awesome. And you've pumped out a lot of little monitors and lizards over that time. Just going off what I've seen on your YouTube channel, there's a few
Yeah, that was
lizards.
quite a few. Yeah, pretty much. I guess because Oris back then they weren't very popular.
Yeah.
They were a bit hard to come by, and then all of a sudden, I managed to breed them. And the first season there weren't many. Following season, I bred a lot and put it out there. Lots of people have them now, and if anything, it's kind of got, had a little bit of an opposite effect where the market's a bit saturated. Everyone who wants Oris got Oris, so that's one reason why I took a break from breeding the Oris.
Yeah, I think it's important to have that sort of awareness around the animals that you are producing and have some sort of ethics towards doing it and not just pumping out, stacks of them just for the
Yeah,
sake of it. I think it's important to have some foresight and see, what's going to end up with these animals. It, not necessarily even just for the monetary value, but for the animal's sake. Like if you breed a heap of them and sell them for cheap, it's not guaranteed that they're going to go into great hands. So
exactly. Yeah, it's interlinked. Yeah, there's the monetary side of things, but it's definitely very much connected to, the more you drop the money value side of things, it might start to attract the wrong crowd. People will buy from impulse. People are not quite ready. So yeah, you're definitely right about that.
totally, totally. So the 3D printing side of things, when did that come about?
I think it goes back to the love for creating and making things. So it's just another tool. The first 3D printer that I picked up was nowhere near the machines that I have now. And even back then, 3D printing as a whole, it's over the last, I would say, decade has moved so quickly, such a rapidly evolving space. So just like when I was building things, I started accumulating tools. I realized, hey, a 3D printer would be handy. And I picked up a small little Ender 3, which is a very, very basic machine to help with creating things. And that was what it was for a long time, just a little tool to help me create jigs, templates, little parts, and mainly just solving problems that I have. For example, if I want a branch being mounted on the wall, I don't like drilling through the enclosure and drilling into the branch because that you can't remove it to clean it. So I made
Yeah.
a little V-shape perch mount that allows you to put it in there and take it out. So yeah, started like that, making things for myself. And it's when I started making things that solve my problems, and I realized a lot of people have the same problems. And yeah, there's a bit of a market for it because I'm not just, downloading things from. There's a lot of 3D printing websites where people upload their files and you just download them for free. You print it for free. It's a whole thing. You can just log in and download things for free. But yeah, these reptiles, as you would know, it's very niched. Niche little community, niche little hobby. So very unique problems requiring very unique solutions. And that's where 3D printing started to pick up from there.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's because a lot of because it is so niche,
Mm.
those resolutions or products, I guess, just aren't
Mm.
out there, and so
Yep.
they sort of have to be custom produced.
Yeah.
Is there anything, or I guess, what is sort of the quirkiest or strangest thing that you've had to 3D print? Is there anything that really stands out as being an odd thing?
Uh, I'm sure there would be. I guess just very, very, very niched. Like it's just a once-off thing. Like I wouldn't say it's strange, but it's definitely, I don't think I'll get asked again to do this, but someone's sliding glass doors was quite thin relative to the track that it sits in,
Right.
and it just rattles around a bit. And I actually had enclosures like that, so I knew exactly the problem. So let's say the glass track is a 6 mil glass track, and the glass sitting in there is 4 mils, and it just rattles around every time you walk past. It'll
Bounces.
just rattle. So just a
Yeah.
little thin plastic strip just sitting there at the right millimeter thickness. Yeah, very, very, very specific request.
That's a very, very delicate little piece of
Yeah,
plastic to.
just one strip of plastic, and had to mail it out.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so you do some locks. I'm fascinated to hear how the snap lock. Is
Yeah,
that
so
what you're
there's
calling it?
the
Sorry.
names are confusing. Yeah, it's not intuitive. I'm not very creative when it comes to coming up names. So the first lock I developed was for the reptile ones. So you
Yeah.
might have had that in your background. Yeah, so they use the traditional key, and it's just to me it's quite annoying to use,
Yeah.
especially because most people who use locks that requires keys don't actually need the key. They leave the key on the
Yeah.
door. They're just using it as
Yeah.
a like a little latch.
Yeah.
So I've created a plastic lock that snaps in and out of place. So it goes into a engaged, a locked position to an unlocked position just with a flick. No more twisting around, no more missing keys and things sticking out. And then from there, I developed, well, someone just asked me, uh, do you have a solution for glass doors? Because I'm not sure whether you know, yeah, those rubbery wedges that go into the middle of the two sliding glass doors. Yeah, so a lot of people use those. And someone asked me like, "Oh, do you have a better solution to this? This is getting a bit annoying. Like you got to wedge them in, and they don't always work. If you pull it, it can still actually open up." So that's when it gave me the idea. Oh yeah, maybe there is a need for something a little bit better. You keep elapids. Obviously, there are rules. For elapids, you need keyed locks. So there's a place for those traditional locks, but at the end of the day, these locks are not designed for reptiles. Most people don't need an actual metal key lock. So
Yeah.
that's when a simpler version involved just using a magnet. That's where the idea came from.
Yeah. Okay. And so the tab just sticks onto the rear piece of glass, and then you close the doors, and the magnet is enough to just hold the doors shut, stops them from opening.
Yep. So yes and no. So a lot of people have the misconception that the magnet is actually what's locking it, and that's when they ask like, "Oh, how strong is this magnet?" But it's actually not the magnet itself. I actually have it here, but there's the base plate that has the double-sided adhesive. It goes
Yep.
onto the glass, and this piece is not budging at all. And within this piece, there's a magnet, and there's actually also a little bit of a ring, a little divot. And the locking piece has the complementary part that goes into it. So the magnet basically just holds it in the position that it needs to be in to engage the lock. So the magnet is actually not taking any of the pressure, the strain.
Yeah, it's just the mechanism that holds the pieces together.
It's plastic to plastic, it interlocks.
Fascinating. So you can't open the doors if that's on,
You can't
basically.
physically open the door. Yeah, so I have to shoot a few demonstration videos for people who are not quite sure how it works, thinking that it's the magnet itself holding it, but no, it's once the plastic locks into the place, the slot that it's in, it can't pop out. It's the magnet just holds it
That's
in place.
that's awesome.
Simple, yeah,
It's
yeah, it's
simple. It's a
simple
brilliant
design.
idea. It's kind of an idea that I guess it just seems like, yeah, obviously it makes sense. And if you could, for a lot of people to do away with those big, bulky, ugly silver key locks, and it's no fun, those key locks when they grind when you drag them off, and when you're trying to undo it or whatever, and then the screw undoes on the back, and then the
Yeah,
whole mechanism just slips out of the door, and
yeah.
oh, they're
They
a
rust
pain.
as well. Yeah, so
They
being messy.
rust.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, how easy is it for you if someone comes to you with an idea for 3D printing something? I guess what's your process then?
So definitely it's not a quick process. Some things just clicks. So for example, this one is
Ha,
quite a popular the yeah
literally
the
clicks.
slide guard. Um, it's a very simple design, and when I was approached with this problem that I'm trying to solve, I did one prototype, which is it's a bit more like the keyed locks. It has that similar hook design where you kind of hook it onto the side of the glass. Then I realized actually I don't really need this whole thing, now that I'm using adhesive tape. So after the first prototype, I automatically went to the final design. That didn't take long. Within half a day, I came up with this. But there are other products where it's prototype after prototype, design tweaks, printing out lots of failed prints before. So it really depends. I don't have a really systematic way of doing things. Yeah, it's just either it comes straight away or it just takes a bit more time. But I guess what's the beauty of this business at this stage is a lot of the ideas actually come from the customers themselves. So I'm not just sitting here, brainstorming on a piece of whiteboard, what's the next product?
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
actually, yeah, like it benefits the customer as much as it benefits me. When they come with a problem, yes, I am doing a custom-made product for them, which takes a lot of time. But once that's done, um, this product would benefit more than just that person. If they have the problem, I'm sure a lot of people do as well. So once I put in the work, a lot of other people, I could sell it. There are other people that would probably want it as well.
Yeah, sure. And I guess people could just come to you with a design and say, "Hey, can you do this? What's the turnaround time? How much is it going to be?" Sort of thing. And that's something
Mm.
that you do, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. So turnaround time really, really depends. It's not my main job, so it just depends on how
Of
busy I
course.
am during the week. It's still a hobby at the end of the day. Try not to let it consume me too much, although it has been the last 2, 3 months when it's really picked up. And in terms of, I actually don't charge for the prototyping designing process because I think it's very hard to put a dollar value in these things. For example, like I'm quite proud of this little product, but it didn't take me
Yeah,
that
so
long.
you should be. Yeah.
Whereas some other products that they're all right, they serve their purpose, but that could take much longer. So I don't think um, time spent on developing a product, you can't put a dollar value in that. It's hard to charge someone because if I have a bit of a brain block, doesn't mean I need to charge you more. So what I've been doing is I've just been designing for free, and what I get out of it is that hopefully I have a new product in the lineup to sell.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously with that, increases sort of your inventory of products that you can produce and overall benefits the business, especially if, like you said, it's a problem that a lot of people might have.
Mm.
And there certainly is space in the Australian market for the business that you're doing. I know that 3D perches would obviously be, or 3D printed perch
Mhm.
options would obviously be very popular at the moment. So do you I saw you do the Systema tub ones are
Mhm.
very cool, and they just slot in. They just fit in with the taper
They
of the
just sit
tubs.
there. Yeah, I mean, no point printing and selling something that's already exists out there. So I'm not trying to, just mass produce and beat everyone at their prices. I'm trying to come up with something innovative and something new. Uh, but also at the same time, not for the sake of doing twists and making things quirky. So if there's already a market, if there's already a product on the market that works perfectly fine, I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel. I'm trying to, you know, do something that's a little bit different, that might work better than what's already out there. So that's my goal. So with the Sistema ones, a lot of people use the ones that has a little lake sitting there. It looks a bit clunky, and it can still potentially slide around a little bit. Uh, Potentially when you move the tubs in and out, if the snake is sitting on the edge of the perch, it just slides around a little bit if it's not a perfect fit. So I thought, why don't we make? I mean, that's the beauty of 3D printing. You can really design each product to suit a very specific scenario. You don't need to meet minimum order quantities. You don't need to have invested, $10,000 into a mold or a die, like injection molding. So I can really just tweak and adjust designs based on that specific application.
You really do have a lot of freedom when it comes to that sort of stuff. Um, how does the software work? I presume you draw things on some sort of CAD
Yeah.
program and then just plug it straight into the printer.
So yeah, and there's one more software in between that does that. So the CAD
Okay.
software is, well, CAD stands for computer aided design. It's basically just a way to sketch up a 3D object digitally. And from there, that 3D object needs to be converted into a language where the 3D printer can understand. Because essentially, what a 3D printer is, just to break it down, it's like a little nozzle. Think about like a little syringe depositing a bead of molten plastic. Um, just from high temperature, it melts it. And there are multiple motors that directs and guides this path, which this injection point, the extruder it's called, it guides it. It kind of tells it the path that it needs to take to make out that shape. And one layer at a time, it deposits and create that 3D object. So there is a software that converts the 3D object, the file, into a language that tells each motor how much to turn, which translate to the tool head moving in three-dimensional space. So that's essentially how it works.
Fascinating. Very I imagine once you've got a hang of it, it's probably as simple as coming up with your design and just, clicking submit or next or whatever. But there's there'd be a lot involved in there, I imagine.
There is quite a bit. It's a very steep learning curve, and I'm definitely no expert in CAD or in 3D printing. I'm still learning every single day. Um, and I think, again, back to when people approach and just want custom orders made, that's another good thing about it. I get to practice and learn because maybe this design that this person asked for requires a skill or a technique on the software that I don't know, and I need to search it up. I need to learn about it. So yeah, it's definitely a steep learning curve, and I'm still growing.
You sound like a man who enjoys a challenge,
Yeah, yeah,
a creative challenge at least.
yeah, it can get frustrating at times, but I guess you like to. To me, it's a bit like solving puzzles. I guess yeah, some people like to solve puzzles. Essentially, these problems that people ask, and I design a product. It is like solving a puzzle, solving a problem.
Yeah, a puzzle, and then you might get paid for it, and then you might get paid for it again and again and again if someone else wants to buy the product too. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, and I'll just buy more and more tools. It just goes back into it,
Yeah,
and
just
then
with
goes back to
a
the
better
reptiles.
printer.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, that's great. I know you recently built some little sensor holders or sensor covers
Yep.
for Dan at Red Earth Reptiles.
Right. Yeah.
How did they go? How was that sort of
Oh, again,
endeavor?
just a message saying that, hey, I've got these sensors that I like to put in the enclosures. They get sprayed on, which is not ideal, and they get knocked off because it's just like a double-sided tape. If the snake decides to lean on it, they just pop off. So you want something that can be screwed onto the enclosure. And I guess the process from there is, all right, so the first thing we need it to do is to not get knocked off. So a screw should be able to take care of that. And then from there, the other considerations would be we don't want it to be interfering with temperature, the logging, the ability to detect temperature and humidity changes. So it needs to be a pretty thin plastic, and there is an opening for where there's a little actual sensor where I don't want to cover. And the other things to consider would be, I guess, you don't want water to go in there and get trapped, condense in there, which might interfere with the humidity reading. So the design make sure that it's enclosed, and when water drips over the top, it slides around the side. It doesn't seep in. So so usually I do think like that in a process where, hey, this is the problem that I'm trying to solve. These are the aspects that I'm like a key aspects that this product must do, and I'm trying my best to check all those boxes.
Yeah, like you were saying before, it is very niche, and I think that without the understanding of reptiles and their behavior and their husbandry, you
Mm.
couldn't just really create the products that have um that really tick all the boxes like you do. Like any old 3D printer could make a little something to hold that little sensor, but without knowing the ins and outs and the intricacies of how it's going to be used and the setting and whatnot, you really can't make it to be entirely successful or productive to fit the job that's been asked of you.
Yeah, I think definitely just my experience with keeping reptiles, I know what could potentially go wrong, and I try to anticipate any of those as much as I can, and create a product that hopefully would withstand some of those. Yeah, because like water, UV is another one, heat under the heat lamp, definitely can
Nice.
affect the 3D printers for the plastic. So all of those, yeah, do need to take into consideration.
Yeah, how does this stuff go underneath UV? Have you had
I
negative
wouldn't
impacts from UV?
I would say UV, I'm pretty confident that will be fine. You just got to know what plastic to choose. So there's a whole range of plastics that can be fed into the printer to be melted and to be used. There are plastics that are specifically good for handling UV is one of them. Interestingly, moisture is another one. Some plastic actually absorbs moisture on a very, very molecular level where it over times weakens things. And there is also, yeah, the heat aspect. I wouldn't recommend putting any plastic under the heat lamp directly. So I would not be recommending making 3D printed basking rocks or 3D printed logs. 'Cause even if they can withstand the temperature, it doesn't mean that they don't give off fumes. So yeah, I wouldn't recommend directly putting any 3D printed products under the heat lamp. It'll be probably just along the side, and sometimes, yeah, things outside of the enclosure, like things to help hold your Mist King um, controllers, your microclimate thermostats. Those are things that I'm working on as well.
Yeah, okay. And I guess that's a good thing to mention. What sort of other products are you producing regularly? You've got the perch holders, the water bowl holders as well.
Mm. So definitely quite behind on pumping out on the page what I actually have available. The products that I'm quite proud, it works quite well, tried and tested. I put it out there as a staple where everyone can just message, purchase, and I'll send it out to them. There are a lot of other products that I've made for people that I don't actually post up. Eventually, I might, but it's just really a case to case thing. It's just if it's a bit too niche, a very specific product for a specific thing, I usually don't post it. The main thing is just I say, you've got a unique solution, a unique problem, I might have a solution for you. It's just going to be case to case, tailor made every single time.
Do you have any plans to expand or pursue this further, or are you just happy just to sort of keep it as a hobby and just plod along with it?
I think I'll just see, I'm open to it, that's for sure. It's definitely, like you said, it's a little gap in the market that's missing. I think traditionally 3D printing as a manufacturing process, it used to be, it's just not there. The technology wasn't there. It's great for prototyping, and that's about it. But now there's more and more plastics available that can go into a printer. The printer's getting more and more precise. It can churn things out way much quicker than what it used to be. So it's definitely able to compete against injection molding, which is, what you think of like cheap Chinese imports. It can compete against that in some applications. And I think the key thing is some applications. There are definitely things that the 3D printer doesn't do well, and that's something we need to recognize. We can't just be printing everything and trying to replace everything with 3D printing products. Injection molding has its place. Traditional like CNC, all the other manufacturing process has its place. It's good to have options. This is not supposed to, replace everything else.
No, but you would have seen, I'm sure, that there people are 3D concrete printing houses now.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, you really
I
can
mean,
3D print organs as well, apparently, like tissue to deposit cells for organ donations.
what the fuck?
Yeah. It's just evolved so quickly. Like this method of 3D, there's actually different methods of 3D printing as well. Some of them uses UV light to cure resin one layer at a time, and depends on where the UV hits, that's the area that's going to be solidified, and they can build 3D objects from that as well. So yeah, definitely a huge space to be looking out for.
A huge space entirely. Yeah, if you need something to help your reptiles perch, or maybe if you need a new kidney later on, keep an eye out
Yeah,
on 3D printing because it could have the
yeah.
solution for you. That's insane. I
Mm.
Yeah, I'm a bit taken away by that's crazy, man. We're 2026. It's technology is just it just
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah.
it's unstoppable. I don't want to go past though your glass fronted PVC enclosures. That's
Mhm.
just like it makes total sense to have a strip of glass there to see more of the enclosures.
Yeah. I mean, the design's not new. Right behind you, you've got one as well. But to, I guess, make one from a DIY perspective, that's something that I kind of came to after many trial and errors and after many versions of my enclosures. It actually started with building with an aluminum frame. What I was trying to do is I used to have a lace monitor. It lives inside, not an outdoor aviary. So I'm trying to build this 2 meter by 2 meter, like that takes up the whole sunroom enclosure. Wood, everything's just going to get way too heavy. So I built an aluminum frame enclosure with very thin core flute plastic sides. And that's how the first design came about. It's core flute. But then from there, I took, hey, core flute, it works all right, but it stains easily. So I kind of moved away from core flute and went with aluminium and with the form ply. And instead of just form ply down the bottom, I decided we've got the frame. The frame can accept a piece of glass. Why not a piece of glass? Just like a lot of the glass terrariums. And once I've done that, I love the look, especially when you put a bank of them together, like a whole wall of it. It just it looks so good compared to what I used to have.
It's just adds that extra little layer of cleaning when you got to get inside and clean that clean that glass, and
That's, yeah,
it shows up when glass gets dirty, doesn't it? You got to get in
it
there and
does, it does, yeah.
yeah.
But then,
I sorry,
sorry,
go
well,
ahead.
I was going to say, like, yes, the bottom part does require a bit more cleaning, but because I'm using glass where it doesn't obscure vision, I'm actually able to do the bottom panel much higher, which means that the animals actually never touch the sliding glass doors at all. So that's actually another benefit, and I don't really have as much of an issue having dirt and substrate getting into the sliding glass tracks because of that reason.
But because you have
It's just way
that
higher.
glass
Yeah,
is taller than it typically would be, because if it was taller and using another material, obviously you wouldn't see half of the enclosure. So that's
yeah,
um that's a neat little thing, man.
yeah.
That's clever.
Just so happened after I made it. It's not something that I thought while doing it. It's just by chance.
Yeah, gotcha. So that video, leading like I watched that video a few times because it's very clever and it's very well put together. So you've been doing YouTube for quite a while now, and your video production is not just on an iPhone with CapCut. You definitely there's a lot of attention to detail in your videos. And I guess does that just come from you being a creative person and enjoying showing people what you're doing?
I just like to, I guess, whatever hobby I'm interested in, I do have a tendency of getting very absorbed into it. I like to develop and hone in the skills. So yeah, same with videography and filming. I mean, if you look back at the original videos, they're definitely not,
No,
what you,
no.
yeah, you can definitely tell I'm not trained in that way, but just over time, um, again, yeah, there's definitely transferable skills. I think everything stems from the reptile hobby. From reptile hobby, there's reptile enclosure making, and from there, the woodworking side of things. And then from reptile hobby, I got into herping, photography, then I got the cameras and everything. Then the videography came. So it all comes from reptiles. So yeah, if someone is interested in a hobby, reptiles definitely. It's not just keeping. There's a lot of branches, a little special interest that you can, you know, branch from.
There are many niches within the niche of reptile,
Yeah, as if it's not
of the world of
someone else.
reptiles.
Yeah,
Yeah, as if it's not. Yeah, yeah. And then even within that, like, there's different niches within herpers. Like,
yeah,
yeah, I go out
yeah,
looking for reptiles. Oh, cool. Which ones? I'm only interested in Larista or something.
yeah.
Because those people are out there. Do you do much herping?
I guess not as much as I do enjoy it, but I'm not like crazy, I think I've watched some episodes. You've interviewed some, very, very, I guess, big name herpers within the Australian scene. I'm not like them. Not like them. It's
No,
more it's more a road trip, a holiday, and herp on the side. That's usually the thing.
I'm similar. I like to sleep, and I like not feeling fatigued entirely. And if I get to see a cool place and go on a fun trip,
Mm-hmm.
that's great. If I see some reptiles while I'm there, even better.
Mm-hmm.
Um, in saying that, there have definitely been a couple of trips where I've, you know, gone hard to find the species and either found it and gone home happy, or not found it and gone home the
No,
opposite. It's
yeah, I do like the idea of going out there, finding rare species, seeing cool things. But when I'm actually out there, I'm like, oh, this is a bit too much, 5 days, 4 nights. I need a
oh,
break from this. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. And it can be tough when you might be in places that aren't necessarily the most scenic, or essentially you're a tourist, so maybe not the most tourist friendly, and you're just out there because there's one snake or one lizard that you're looking for. You can get it can get to a point where you get over it. That's for sure.
And honestly, for me, like herping, I do like to see diversity, different species, but a big part of it's the photography. So I actually care more about photographing a nice photo than to see but not being able to photograph a rare species for majority of the time. My focus is actually not to check off a list of species I haven't seen. My focus is actually just to try and try a different photography technique. Yeah, that's actually more of my focus when it comes to her.
Yeah, for sure. So talk us through some of your photography. I guess what sort of equipment are you using? And then when you're trying to photograph something, say that you've already photographed 10 times before,
Mhm.
what are you trying to do differently to better
Um,
yourself from?
so I guess there's always that you got a new camera, you got a new lens, and you just want to do it again. Because now
Yeah.
through a different lens, the effect's a bit different, your gear is a bit better, and you might get sharper, crisper photos. I would say that the main gear that made a big difference, I went from when I first started herping, it was really hikes with seeing reptiles on the side, and I'll take out doing a phone shot. And then from there, the phone's not quite able to reach. I was just not happy with the quality of the phone photos. I got a DSLR. And from there, I would say a wide angle lens was the first kind of turning point for me. Like with reptile photography, a wide angle lens really just captures the subject, the reptile up close, but you still be able to see the habitat that it's in. And that was something that I was really excited about, being able to photograph both the subject and the habitat. And from there, the next, I guess, major turning point was getting a proper diffuser set up. So having a proper flashlight, and I 3D printed my own diffuser, and I still use that till today. It's basically it's the same design as all the other macro diffusers out there, but 3D printed instead. Um, that really the lighting just really comes out aesthetically different. Everything's soft, everything's nicely lit, not too harsh, doesn't cast like bad shadowing or anything like that. I would say those are the two main big turning points in the way photos are taken for me.
It's it's kind of like getting new tools.
Yep,
You
yep,
you just want to try it out and build something better and see what else you can do with it.
yeah, yeah. All very expensive hobbies.
Ah, man, yeah. It's better than spending money on undesirable things, I guess.
Yeah, it's
Having your
healthy.
money all, it's a
Oh,
very, it's a,
borderline healthy.
yeah. Actually, I
Borderline
nearly said
healthy.
something that wasn't entirely true.
Yeah, yeah. Now that I said
It
it out
can
loud,
be,
yeah.
yeah, it can be a very healthy hobby. Um, yeah. So, do you have any future plans for YouTube content?
Well, yeah, look, it's hard. It's definitely hard trying to juggle quite a few things.
Oh yeah,
Um, because I guess especially because I do enjoy the actual the videography and the editing. So each video takes so much time, and I'm not one to just put out content for the sake of keeping viewers. I was never intended to grow this YouTube channel or anything. It just so happened that it did grow a little bit. Um, I think the main thing was if I have the time, if I have something that I'm happy with, like filming, and there's a video that I would like to share, I would. But that's not my focus. I wouldn't just be pumping up videos to grow the channel just for the sake of doing it.
yeah, sure. So there's no videos in the works then.
Nothing at all. Nothing at the moment.
But that's kind of nice. You don't have that hanging over you at the moment.
Yeah, and I guess yeah, you can only get obsessed with one or two things at a time. You can't spread yourself too thin. Right now, 3D printing is taking up a lot of my time and mental capacity, hobby
Yeah,
wise.
I can imagine. I can imagine. I know we've sort of bounced around in this conversation a bit, but I want to go back to some of the other innovative sort of things that you've DIY'd and talk about the radiant heat panel that you
Uh,
made.
yeah,
That was a very interesting video. How did that come about?
came about. The radiant heat panels. From what I was researching, seems like a pretty good source of heat for green tree pythons compared to. I feel like I did toy around. It would be so much cheaper if I just bought like a deep heat ceramic dome or something like that. But I just feel like I want something that evenly heats up the pythons over a large area rather than a a scorching hot spot. And as you might know, in Australia, there's really very limited options when it comes to radiant heat panels. I did look at whether we can import some. I mean, not 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 easily. Is the bottom line is what I can conclude to.
Yeah.
It's just so many hurdles to get through with like getting electrical compliance and everything. But ironically, I guess what I've done is not compliant. So I don't sell it, and I don't recommend anyone to just go and make some. This is purely for my own use. But yeah, there is that aspect of it. Getting taxed when you bring things in, minimum order quantities. There's just not many availabilities out there, but I'm pretty set. I want radiant heat panels for my green tree python. So there isn't one. You just got to make one.
Yeah, and you did, and you went to no short lengths in doing so. There would have been a fair bit of research involved. I know that you specifically chose some materials for certain things. Can you talk us through that?
Yeah, so the first prototype that I tried is a baking tray. So a baking tray is pretty much already the correct shape. Definitely can handle the heat. Wouldn't be easy if I can just put a heat cord within a baking tray, mount it up, done. Job done. But turns out it doesn't work like that. So I don't think the research came before. I'm not that good at planning. Sometimes I just like to do it and just do trial and error. So I actually bought a baking tray. I put a heat cord in there, and for some reason the heat's just not coming through. Then I realized that different materials have different abilities to absorb and radiate heat. And baking trays, they're just not that good at that, actually, surprisingly. Um, they get really hot to touch, but they don't actually radiate the heat very well. And then it went down the rabbit hole of like learning about like different wavelengths of infrared radiation, which came in quite handy, quite useful. You want the shorter wavelengths rather than the long wavelengths. That's the more bioavailable types of infrared. They're the types where short wavelengths mean higher energy. It penetrates the tissues a lot better. You hear about it in Arcadia's deep heat projectors. They're advertising. That's how they work. So I did go down that rabbit hole, researched a lot about the science behind how radiation, infrared, how all of those work. And with what I have, I have to admit, like what I used is not the best. But with what's available, what's affordable, that's the best sort of compromise. So I ended up choosing tempered glass that has a black surface on one side. Black tends to be a bit better at radiating heat. Um, and I researched and found some ceramic insulation fiber. Being ceramic, they're just not flammable. They can handle high heat. And I put it in there. And essentially, like the radiant heat panel is it's not rocket science. It's not that complicated of a piece of technology. You just want something that radiates heat, something that allows the heat to come out. And in some of them, and I did incorporate that into my design, a bit of a regulator just for safety measures. So there's this thermistor switch where once it reaches a certain temperature, the metal within it deforms at that certain temperature, which kills the switch. So it's a physical thing that happens. So there's hopefully less room for error. I've been running them for over a year now. They've been running quite well. So I still hook them up with the thermostat. But if
Yep.
the thermostat fails, there is still a kill switch built into each one of them.
Yeah, that's a nice little fail safe. And
Mm.
did you, if I remember correctly, did you put a light in there to indicate when the machine's
Yeah.
or when it's operating?
Again, learn from trial and error. When I used to use ceramic heat emitters, I had one on that I didn't realize actually stopped working. And I don't know how long it was out for. By the time I realized snake was cold, snake was fine in the end, but I want to make sure that there is a way for me to tell when things are not working. So that's why I decided I want to incorporate this into the design.
I think it should be across the board in those sorts of pieces of equipment. I think that's one of the biggest negatives, in my opinion, about like deep heat projectors, ceramic bulbs, radiant heat panels, all those things that you can't tell when they're operating. And
Mm.
yeah, if you're not entirely across your husbandry, like temp gunning enclosures every single day at the time when they should be on, then you might not pick up on it, and
Mhm.
your animals could suffer potentially. So I think that the integration of that little light in there was a fantastic idea.
Thank you.
Well, Tim, have you got anything else you wanted to cover?
Um, Maybe on a different episode. No, I don't know.
Yeah,
I feel like we've touched on quite a few. How are we doing with time?
we're great. Yeah, we're nearly at an hour, so time's good.
How great, yeah, flew past.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Is there a timer on your end, or you can't see a timer?
Oh, there is. It's just I don't know where to look
Oh, small.
to find a
Yeah,
timer.
okay. Sometimes I feel like I'm just the master in control of all of the technology when it's
Yeah, not
really.
not focused
Uh,
on it. That's all.
yeah, cool, man. Well, I'm pretty happy to wrap things up there.
Sounds good.
If you are. Yeah,
I
cool.
guess yeah, we've touched on quite a wide range of topics,
Totally.
which is good. Yeah, good chat.
Yeah, I agree. If anyone wants to get in contact with you or see your photography or have a look at some of your stuff, whereabouts can they find you?
So YouTube is where I do most of my long format videos. Again, nothing planned, but maybe I'll post once a year kind of thing. But yeah, that's one place to see what I'm up to, big projects. I've got Varanibae on Instagram, which is more the captive 3D printing focused page. And then I've got Varanibae Photography, which is as the name implies, the herping the photography side of things. So those are the three places.
Awesome. I'll be sure to chuck all those links in the show notes. I really appreciate your time today, mate. Thanks so much for coming on.
A pleasure. Thanks for having me.
No worries. And as always, everybody, thanks so much for listening. Feel free to reach out on Instagram at joemac.uthl. If you've enjoyed the content, please consider subscribing, liking, and following along. Cheers.